Okay, so hey guys and welcome back to another predictions video, and in today's video I'm going to be predicting the Lopez versus Taylor fight. If you are new around here then you haven't subscribed, please do so, like the video if you need like the video, and let's get straight into it. So going into this fight, Taylor is 19-0 with 13 KOs and Lopez is 18-1 with 13 KOs. This fight is for the WBO World Super Lightweight title. Lopez's last fight was a win via split decision versus Martin. Taylor's last fight was a win via split decision versus Catterall, and that was over a year ago. We'll get on to both of them fights a bit more in a moment. Lopez's only loss came via split decision versus Cambosos Jr. This is in Lopez's home country of America. Josh Taylor coming over from Scotland to test him in his, I suppose, maybe not back garden, but in his own country. A lot has been going on behind the scenes for Taylor, let alone Lopez as well, and both kind of similar, kind of different to an extent. So, I mean, Taylor, a lot of things been going on with the fact of the Catterall fight, that being so close. A lot of people have been saying things about his ability, and there's been a lot of back and forth about the actual fight happening over the past few months and not happening and happening and not happening. And overall, I mean, I don't think he's been stripped of the title. I might be wrong, but either way, there's also been things been going on for Lopez as well. More personal things I'm not going to get onto too much because they are personal things, but that can both affect their mindset going into that, can make them possibly more determined and wanting to prove themselves. Especially, I mean, Lopez also coming off a bit of a lackluster performance himself, and maybe, or it maybe might, I don't know, dishearten one of them, make one more motivated than the other. I don't really know how that factor might play out, but that is something which makes this fight. I think overall, in general, this is a very good matchup because I feel like not just with that kind of stuff going on behind the scenes, but they're at similar points in their careers. I mean, they've both been fighting around world level for a while now, and they've both got to a point where they are maybe having these tougher matchups and possibly struggling a little bit more against these up and coming fighters. And now that they are the fighters to be beaten, maybe it's a good matchup that they can both have. And of course, I mean, got similar records, and arguably people would argue that they got the same records. Of course, one of them was Taylor getting that victory versus Catterall, one wasn't, but either way, similar kind of level, similar kind of time in their career. And I mean, to an extent, this is a grudge fight as well. Both seem to not really like each other. Don't really know where that, I suppose, beef to an extent started from or whatever. But either way, that adds another aspect to this fight. But maybe, to be honest, they were both bound to have this grudge aspect, whoever they fought, because they both are maybe going for a little bit in their own personal life. So it means that maybe they are coming into this, like I said, more fueled up and more riled up and wanting to prove. So maybe that kind of grudge aspect was bound to happen either way. But Taylor, as a fighter, he's always fought at the high level. He has immense heart. He punches in combinations. He gets in the inside well. When he wants to get in the inside, he normally finds a way. He's got a consistently good work rate. He finds angles. He asserts himself, uses his body to assert himself. He's fast, changes rhythm, always comes forward, finds space, and I like the fact that he can kind of, to an extent, force his way into the middle, or not into the middle, into the kind of closer range aspects and inside. And when he is doing that, and he is putting his combinations together, and he is finding these angles and asserting himself and changing the rhythm, using his speed, it can make him a really tough opponent for anybody. Maybe he didn't do that well enough against Catterall. Some saying he probably overlooked Catterall a little bit. Not too sure if that's the case or not, but either way, when he is on his game and he has that heart, it's difficult to be able to beat somebody who wants to kind of go in for a war, to be honest, and has that immense heart and there's nothing gonna stop him when he's on that. And it is just difficult for him to be able to get stopped by anybody, let alone be knocked out properly by anybody. And Lopez, he's had that success in the past though. Lopez, he has knocked people out, and I mean, so's Taylor in his own right, but Lopez has had these devastating knockouts, and so maybe Lopez possibly might be wanting a knockout. Don't know if he's going to be able to find one though. Taylor, though, he can smother his work when he's trying to force himself in. I like the way that he can get in, but sometimes he may be forcing it a little bit, and he can take punishment in the process. He can be outboxed. He's not got much head movement. He does rush at times. He needs the pressure, in my opinion, and like the pressure of the fight, and I feel like he has this for this one. In the casual one, maybe he didn't have as much pressure. He's coming off a foot injury himself, so it'd be interesting to see if that plays any bit of a factor in his movement or anything like that. And the fact that I felt like where he struggled in his last fight against Catterall was his lack of head movement and maybe trying to force himself in, and when he was seemingly losing and even himself was changing his game plan because he was losing, he was trying to force it a little bit and trying to impose himself, and it just wasn't working. And fair play to Catterall to being able to stop that, but it's just maybe that's where he struggled. Maybe he got frustrated and tried to force it a little bit. Lopez as a fighter, though, of course, he's a very talented, skilled boxer. He's also been fighting at this level quite a while now. He's fast as well, has a high IQ, makes adjustments in the fights, powerful, got good timing, can be off the front or the back kind of foot fighter, hard to judge, stands his ground, has good game plans. When he wants to have good game plans, he does. Seemingly goes in with good game plans. Maybe his team don't always help with that because maybe at times they're telling him that he's doing good, but maybe he's not quite doing as good as what they think he's doing. But he goes into fights with good game plans and can adjust when his team gives some good advice, and he can adjust mid-fight, and he has done that. And he's always difficult to be able to judge because he does kind of maybe invite a little bit of pressure, then pounce, and then that's where he's got his devastating knockouts in the past, and he does time it well, and like I said, can be off the front or the back foot, and he does have that power, does of course, like I said, stand his ground, so maybe he might be up for a bit of a war, not entirely sure though. But I suppose his negatives, we're not overly kind of sure what kind of mindset he's going to be going into this fight with. He can sometimes struggle with range a little bit, so I don't think he'll probably do that against Taylor unless he wants to fight at mid-range. Then possibly he might struggle being able to keep Taylor at mid-range. He's been seen to not be, I suppose, maybe his happiest in while he's been boxing as of recent. Like he's not been fighting with as much joy and enjoyment for the sport, and maybe that's also playing a bit of a factor and being brought from something going on elsewhere. He's sometimes a bit sloppy. He's not been as good in my opinion in this weight division since moving up. He lost versus Cambosis Jr., then moved up, and since then he's had a couple of fights. They've not been amazingly good fights, nothing overly special, and I mean he got that big win. He is the ex IBF, WBA Super and WBO World Lightweight Champion. He won that versus Lomachenko, and like I said, that was where he had a good game plan. He saw Lomachenko was a bit of a slow starter, went in there, was quick off the blocks and caught him out. Of course, Loma came back in the later rounds like he normally does, but what he did in the earlier rounds was just too much, and that's what you kind of have to do to be able to beat Lomachenko. And I think, to be fair, Haney probably could have done with doing a bit more of that. Of course, he won anyway, but to make it more solidified of a victory for him. But either way, Lopez did that, and so he shows that he can be fighting at this level. But like I said, it's just since he's moved up, maybe he can't impose himself as much. Maybe he is struggling with maybe the power a little bit. Not really too sure, but either way, in my opinion, he doesn't look quite the same in this weight division as of recent, especially. But he's still having these big fights, and I would probably say it's close, but I think Taylor is the favourite for this fight. I think that Taylor will win via split decision. Of course, I doubt either fighter's going to be wanting another split decision, to be completely honest, but I think Taylor will. Maybe Lopez might have a couple early rounds, but I think Taylor will be asserting himself and be wanting to come on the inside and just keep a good, consistent work rate and just continue to do that into the later rounds, drag him into the later rounds, and I think his mindset will just be stronger, and he'll have that heart and have that desire, and maybe, I don't know, to be honest. It's close, but I think he'll just be able to scrape that victory, and then I don't really know where he goes from there, to be honest. Taylor, if he has another split decision, could rematch Lopez again, could rematch Catterall. I think there's also a rematch there with Prograis, but I think if he's going to fight on a Matchroom card, it probably will be against Catterall, just because that would be that bigger draw. And so if I'm put another option here, just for a top rank option, and that is fighting Barboza Jr. Of course, Barboza Jr. did reject the fight versus Prograis, which I found a little bit strange, but maybe Top Rank have guaranteed something for him, and maybe that's why he's decided to stick around there and not take any other fights, and possibly this could be one. I don't entirely know for sure, but either way, that is it for today's video. Hope you did enjoy. Like if you didn't, like, subscribe if you're new, and thanks for watching.